had one up here, bro. Yeah, man. I didn't know that. Dang, I don't. Well, I won't get there for tomorrow morning. All right. What is that? Crack that window again. It got warm up. Buenas tardes, mis amigos, mi hermano, mi familia. All the brothers are gonna be like, "I'm gonna these Spanish motherfuckers teaching our lessons." Those are my relatives, but I'm not Spanish motherfuckers. Even though everybody thinks I am. I mean, we got pale skins who are Negro and black, so get beside yourselves. You gotta get away from colors, phenotypes, and they're necessary, but to a degree. I'm a hair villain from Opera. You better eat them little kibbles. to a certain article, but have this be very, 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 very far down. Yo, what's going on? It's good. I hope this is a good one for you. Actually, I know it's going to be a good one. Well, that's one of the recent things before we actually read. And what I'm going to read at the end, hopefully will benefit all. So, as y'all know, I have hundreds, if not thousands, of different notes and PDFs. A lot of them I wish were books. This one I believe is. I just have never thought to look into it. But it's the rise and fall of the Khazars. And what am I talking about? It's the 13th tribe by Arthur Koestler. What did I? Okay. This is a little different synopsis. When you think about the Byzantine Empire, to which was no empire, was part of the Greater Tartary. Khazaria, people have a hard time dealing with that, but you got to remember, all history is not what it is meant to be. The rise and fall of the Khazars. In Khazaria, sheep, honey, and Jews exist in large quantities. That's by Muqaddasi. Okay? By the time when Charlemagne was crowned emperor of the West, the Eastern Charlemagne crowned emperor of the West. I want you to listen again, because what I'm going to read after I get to reading these 3 books is very important for you. Charlemagne, about the time when Charlemagne was crowned emperor of the West, there were only Khans who were subject, and emperors and empresses, and who were over the kings and queens of the kingdoms and queendoms. The eastern confines of Europe between the Caucasus and the Volga were ruled by an Ashkenaz or Jewish state known as the Khazar Empire at the peak of its power from the 7th to the 10th century. Now, why do I say that? Well, we believe this to be the 2023. I want to show you this picture of this rabbi. Okay? Why? Because Rav Hook was the most prominent figure in the late 1800s, early 1900s of the Zionist religion. Okay? Who created it? This picture I'm going to show this man, and you will know the darkness, and you can see the darkness in him and in his existence when you see this picture. When you want to talk about the octopus or the hand, there is something that put him to it, but we're going to go ahead and pull this individual out. Okay. Let me make sure I got the right. Yes, sir. Okay, we're going to pull up Theodor Herzl. You see the great empire behind him? The grand cities. Theodor Herzl is the end tentacle to the long arm, to which y'all know nothing about, that created Zionism in 1800s. Do any of y'all remember when I told you when? 1897. Just as Christianity actually came on the scene and Islam was still the Mohammedan movement, just as Christianity was the Christian movement. Why am I doing this? Well, I got a little buddy over there who I respect, ex-police officer. He's got a big mouth and a lot of wind, like a lot of people I knew when I lived in New York and a lot of cities. And even when I was in the military as a supervisor and a leader, who I detested sometimes because these people had mouths. Even the guys who I trained to go in the police force who would always come back and train in the dojo or the gymnasium, whether it was jiu-jitsu or Hapkido, Taekwondo, whatever it was that, you know. And he made a comment about Zionism as if he has an idea or a clue. Now, all this information everybody's privy to, but not everything. He made a statement about people saying it over and over and over. First of all, you're talking about fake fucking Jews, who's part of his bloodline, to be respectful. Okay, no, excuse the language, but that's what it needs, a good F, because that's what it is. The F-bomb is very inclusive to this, because a lot of people think they know everything, and they really don't know nothing. They're predicated upon the system that they're in, and fake whiteness and fake blackness and all the other fake stuff. That's why it's important for y'all to sin. So we have to go back not too far. Now, what's the next thing I'm going to show you? Let me scroll down a little bit. As you know, as an organized nationalist movement, an organized, established, right? Organized. Remember what agenda means, right? We went over that a little earlier this AM. Zionism is generally considered, it's not saying it's a staple, it is or anything, considered to have been founded by Theodore Herzl in 1897. Why do I say that? I'm going to show you a picture, and at the end, I'm going to break down a little bit of this picturesque. All right. You see the picture that's on the thumbnail? That's America. You know, they had to make up the 7 golden cities and Cordoba and all that other stuff. We're going to get into that. All right. I want to stay focused. I want you to stay on track. I want you to be mindful of what I'm expressing here. Okay. We're going to get into the history and stories of Nebraska. And that's one out of many. Okay. Remember, agenda is a list of items to be discussed at a formal meeting, an appointment diary, a specificality, something established. We congregate, we conspire, whatever in direction or good or bad. An agenda is prolific of that. Okay. I wish this man would come over here and speak instead of being very arrogant in his ignorance. Because I go at any and everybody. I used to go at commanders, lieutenant commanders, 1 stars. It didn't matter when it came to history and its knowledge, when they were sitting there talking a whole bunch of hoopla and didn't know what they were opening their mouth about. How about this one right here? Let me share this one more. Because we have a lot of pale skins attempting to teach tartary based on what they're finding. And they make the most foolish. They always say Christopher Columbus. Excuse me, but his name was Salvador Zarco. Salvador Fernandez Zarco. There was no Christopher Columbus. He was a melanated Negro, if you want to call him the Guinea. He was of Algonquin original blood, who happened to be, and not even in Espanol, but of a Portuguese narrative. I am so tired of these people with their fake history opening their mouths as if they know what they're saying or what they're talking about, and they have no clue, especially on specificalities. The hypocrisy, and it's just beyond believable. I mean, how you going to be some pale-skinned Italian and all your right-hand peoples is niggas? But not to disquote pale-skins for being niggas, because they're the biggest niggas on earth. Not all of them, but damn it if they ain't. The most ignorant. Assumers, full of assumptions. Now, let's go ahead and get into the reading, and then we'll read that other part. It's going to keep it short and tight. Keep it nifty. Keep it real 50 and nifty, right? Crack, boy. He got a young heart and a young mind. If he could just stop drinking that old English and let his brain develop a little more, he'll be all right. So let's go ahead and get into Exposing the Expositions 1851-1915, revised edition of his 2019 to 2021 by Howdy Mikowski. Okay? Let you know what that is. The court of what? Honor? You done opened it, you jumped on, I heard you jump on the door and open it. Oh, he wants to get away from the 5G. I can't blame him. I originally thought this was going to be a 1 or 2 month project on the Chicago Fair, discussing the oddities of it and making a few hypotheses. But that turned into months of detailed research because it was not just Chicago where this insanity happened. Similar world expositions, he was behind this. Herzl's one of them. He was a consultant for religious affairs. So anyway, Chicago, where this insanity happened. Similar world expositions occurred in New York, Philadelphia, Buffalo, St. Louis, and San Francisco. He's using the terms of today. Remember, those are not the original terms or words. Now, if you look at the websites that I shared some time ago, you can go and see the actual terms or names used for those. Okay? Just 9 years after their earthquake, Louisville, Omaha, Nashville, and New Orleans all built massive buildings for their regional affairs. There were fairs in Paris, London, Barcelona, Spain, Melbourne, Australia, Lima, Peru, Copenhagen, Brussels, Cambodia, just about everywhere in the world, all with magnificent, supposedly temporary structures that were torn down immediately after the fairs were concluded. Why build such an event only to destroy it? So I began looking into it, and a lot of things do not add up. And from the time frames considered for building these structures, even to the history of the exposition cities themselves, just about everything in the history of the world between 1800 to 1920, mind you, seems incredibly strange once you begin to examine it. Now, at the center point of the strangeness appears to be these world fairs acting like a lighthouse or beacon, saying, "Look at here." Now, every time when spells come out, they got to go somewhere that was relative to them, and they don't even know their truth. And the first thing they go is to go to Russia. No, that wasn't. No, it's not even the original land. As far as the breakup, of course, but the buildings started here. But it was everywhere, even on Easter Island, people, even in the deep oceans, on grand cities and lands that are now hundreds, if not thousands of feet beneath the so-called sea. All right. One more paragraph. World expositions or fairs in the United States started in 1851 in London and hold on. World exhibitions or fairs in the United States started in 1851 in London and were supposedly intention of nations to showcase their newfound industrial and scientific progress, cultural concepts to reveal social Darwinism, and people today, we know that's been debunked. Well, 40 years or something like that, 30 or 40 years. People today are better than those in the past. Industrial people are better than primitive people. It was the new elite that financed the expositions and who were its main attendees. World fairs inspired all the modern amusement parks and even theme parks like Disneyland. But there was so much more to these 19th century fairs than amusement. They were called expositions for a reason. You open the door, I like it closed because the ventilation. Being a knucklehead. Do this right quick. Exposition. A comprehensive description and explanation of an idea or theory. The exposition and defense of his ethics. Again, explanation of an idea or a theory, not practical and relevant to the truth, but something that suppresses and then supplies. Hidden lands beyond the Antarctica. The continuation of Morse' journey between interconnected planets. When Claudio Nocelli, Nos Confoundum. And that's our brother right there. As some of you may have purchased the book. This is the 4th installment. We've already went through the first 3. I believe there is a 5th or on the way. Chapter 25, The Hidden Land. Let's see if we can put a little light on that. Let's bring that down. I got my headlight here that I'm using. I just want to bring it a little lower and see if I can light this up a little bit without getting all up in my damn face. Oh, man, that about blinded me. There we go. That's good. Chapter 25, The Hidden Land near Antarctica. How will we do this? Oh, that was damn. You know what these lights are called, right? These things drive me crazy, y'all. How will we do this? Do it this time, excuse me. Well, by air, Butler would sentence, and it would be the first time for me to penetrate the first dome with the famous iron blue. That's just too much. I'm sorry. I can actually see it, but I just want to put a little light. That's just too much. LEDs are crazy. I remember when they started putting them in the cars, you drive it at night, and all of a sudden you think you got like this big UFO coming at you because you can't see nothing. And then they made it. You got to have these in vehicles. They just want to blind you. They mess with your retinas. Let's start over again. Excuse me. My apologies. apologies. Chapter 25, the hidden land near Antarctica. How will we do it this time? Well, by air. Butler would sentence, as he would state, okay? And it would be the first time for me to penetrate the first dome with the famous Iron Blues. These are big ships that are triangle and no jet motors or nothing. These things move on natural energy, okay? This had to have surgical precision and was very risky. But considering the security moves that were taking place around the ice walls, it was better to be safe and to do it by air. That same afternoon, we left for the old continents, and I felt as much adrenaline as excitement inside me. I could not wait to take off. Our great ship departed, ascending at an incredible speed and reaching a height that I had never reached in my previous trips. You could clearly see the waters above over the second dome. Everything was calm and according to plan, at least until we approached, the dividing edge. It was planned to pass through the passage. We were already well acquainted with. Butler, I remember I was supposed to have marked this, but it was planned to pass through the passage we were already well acquainted with. Butler, since my boat had long before sailed across, but this time with a ship crossing the skies and going at great speeds. Now Butler, knowing me, remarked several times to put my mind at ease that everything would go as planned. There were only 4 of us inside, and the pilot and one person who could indicate by sound alone what was the fault of those bluish streaks that were cruising the skies. These things are incredibly huge too. They're not small. Remember the grays, these small little grays, they fly in these things like orbs. Anyway, Malaysia, flight 370, right? The orbs that were around it before it, We descended several feet to reach an altitude that we considered a priori and safe since the radar should not detect us. Suddenly we entered this passage, and the experience by air is totally different. It is to enter a kind of tunnel where nothing is heard but silence. The speed, although we had reduced it considerably before entering, there inside it seems that we were being shaken frantically. Everything lasted seconds, and we appeared on the other side, flying upside down over the Antarctic Sea. The pilot quickly, and with great astuteness, controlled the ship and the situation brilliantly. Everything returned to normal as the ship righted its course, and the ice walls were perfectly visible, and we were about 2,300 feet in altitude, 2,300. We crossed part of the walls without problems, but something was not right with our ship. Several alarms went off inside, and we began to lose altitude rapidly. We saw land in sight on the south coast, and the lunar pilot made an emergency landing. The Lanier pilot, made an emergency landing. Everything was starting to go wrong in our return to the known lands. Now, was this the unexpected end just minutes after returning to my beloved lands? Now, the Iron Blue broke into the quiet wooded areas between huge snowy mountains, and with great care, we managed to survive a forced but incredible landing between trees that hid our most precious bird. I need to turn my notifications off. Hold on, people. Yeah, y'all, I'm live right now. Let me turn these notifications off. I can't do this. Hold on. You ain't gotta say all day, and every time you're live, it's a phone call, it's messages. It's like, come on, people. You can't make that up. There's no hate. It's just funny. Anyway. Anyway, with great care, we managed to survive a forced but incredible landing between trees that hid our most precious bird that moved us and resisted the onslaught. Now, one after another, we went from one side to the other until suddenly peace invaded. We had passed the first test, but now what? I asked. Butler was beaten, but he was fine. And the other 2 ancestors had no major injuries either. My leg hurt quite a bit from the blows, and my body too. Although, as you know, I had come with some problems since before entering these lands. It remained, excuse me, it remained to find out if this abrupt fall had been an error of our ship, and in parentheses it states, something that was quite difficult to imagine, or if it had been caused by some technology that had been installed by the parasites or the forces that work for them. Like an Ampere, maybe? We'll see. We were on some remote island on the border with the walls, which could not be seen in the distance due to the fog that covered the great forest, but we knew exactly that they were there. Now the sun was peeking through the large trees, and we left quickly to get away from the ship in case there were forces in the area that could have spotted our fall. We were mere mortals coming from the other side of the walls with a broken ship, strange clothing, although similar to the time that ran in my homeland, with ancient technology that fortunately still worked properly. But really, if they wanted to attack us, what? I gotta hit this. I gotta hit him up in Messenger. Wanting to attack us was our worst time. We were at our worst time, is what to say, and the worst way to have entered. Now we moved away about 900 meters from the area of the fall, although it had been resounding our ship, and it had not. Yeah, you know what? I haven't read ahead of this part. This right here, I'm reading first with y'all, so I have not comma, no apostrophes, no nothing. We moved away about 900 meters from the area of the fall. Although it had been resounding, our ship had not generated any fire or something to consider that we could have been spotted from afar. Now the fog invaded completely, and we could barely make out the road we were traveling in these cold forests. Now suddenly we began to hear strange noises coming from the north, and someone was walking in the weeds. The fog prevented us from seeing if it was a man, and we decided to stop our march completely. We crouched down in the thick grass and waited. 10, 20, 30 seconds passed and nothing. Silence invaded. So 1 minute, 2 minutes, it was even 5. When we overcame this, we came out of the trees and ran head on into a human soldier walking towards us. I think we were both stunned, but human soldier, that's something. But the Marine touched his gun with his left hand and raised his right to indicate that he would not shoot, and immediately called us silently to come closer to his position. Now Butler indicated that we should follow him and not say a word. He would speak. Then the soldier asked us in perfect English what battalion we were from or where we came from. We let the captain speak, and he gave him concrete answers and exact locations to dispel any doubts from the soldier. We began to have equally great suspicions of this Marine. What was he really doing patrolling alone in these latitudes? We were not even aware that humans had reached this remote southern part of the known continents. Charlie, as the soldier introduced himself, received us in the best way, believing Butler's version, and handed us several fruits and food that he carried in his backpack, while he began to tell us about how he arrived to these lands and how confused he was in this way. So, you remember those things we were talking about early on? And even in other books, sometimes you can get in something and end up somewhere and don't know how you got there. The Philadelphia experiment. Next, we'll get into the soldiers' information on the war between humans and giants in the hidden lands in the South. As I stated, in that book, Flatlandis, very, very informing as to all of this information that we're sharing right now. Okay. So chapter 26 will confirm some things and bring a little more light. I probably need to read ahead and get some apostrophes and some commas and and some periods, because it's just flowing along. So bear with me. It's a great book though. Okay. Let's hit the heaven bearers, and then I'll read a little something about American tartary that people might find, but they'll misquote to fit their narrative instead of being able to break things down logistically. I'm so tired of pale skins screwing everything up every time they want to make $1 and tell a story. I'm serious. So here, let's get into Heaven Bearers, excuse me. Heaven Bearers, the Great Reset of 1834 and the Mud Flood. As you would know, when we were reading Exposing Expositions of 1851 and 1915. So we've got a, how many? 21-year period here? Before that, somebody asked me, James, what do you know about the trains in America? I said, well, the ones that have been not been destroyed are the ones that have been abandoned, along with the locomotives that are out in plenty woods in Virginia, the Carolinas, where y'all probably want to go, where there's bases and stuff. A lot of those tracks were dug up, and those trains were dug up, and they had us reworking, tooling them to get them to work again. And the ones that couldn't work on that, an energy, because we couldn't find the stones, we made them run on steam. So that's something for y'all to research. See if you can find any pictures with trains with all these foreigners digging them up and an on-looking Negro to make it work again. So anyway, Heaven Bearers, The Great Reset of 1834 and the Mud Flood by Janine Helen. Let me take this down here. There she is in South Africa. Chapter 7. Excuse me. I'm about to eat here my mushroom, potato, parsley, celery. Oh, it's just the bomb. Mushroom. It's about 4 different mushrooms, oyster, lion's mane. Oh, it's just, and it is seasoned to perfection with a tablespoon of Old Bay to give it that little saucy seafood. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's get on to it. There's an entire level down there. Rooms. Remember, she went to the other side of the house. It was so immense, and she saw this window, and she took a rock and broke in, and she went in. Well, she wanted to see in there first. So let's get into that. There was an entire level down there, and the rooms with doors, and she can see a staircase in the distance. With, hey, baby, which means there is at least another level besides this one. Her heart starts pounding with excitement, and she wonders, what will she find? Or what she will find. She takes the rock and cleans out the glass neatly from the window frame until there is no more glass. She sticks her feet in through the window first and climbs inside slowly, so as not to cut herself accidentally. The room is dark and stuffy, but some light manages to reach inside now that the window is missing. There is an old chair in the corner of the room, and it is the only piece of furniture in the entire room. It is big, for someone twice her size, and there is a folded piece of paper on the floor. She picks it up and opens it to read what is inside. There is a single sentence. Wir ut av tiden. Wir ut av tiden. Okay? It is our tiden, but tiden is what we say. Wir ut av tiden. Okay? It's like kind of German, right? It is in that same language that the books in the library are written in, and she is slightly irritated that she can't understand it, the old Tartarian language. She folds up the piece of paper and puts it into her pocket. Jane should know what the sentence means. Bonnie is sure that she knows more than she is letting on. That is Jane, that is. She walks out of the room and into a little passageway. There is an old painting on the wall and a broken mirror. The door is different, though, older than the ones above on the ground level, and she can't help but notice this. She sees this peculiarly as weird. She wonders if Malcolm had them replaced. It is very likely that he did. She looks up at the ceiling and can see a faint depiction of something or a pattern of some sort, but it is too dark and she can't make out exactly what it is. It is probably the same patterns that are on the upstairs ceiling. She assumes and she continues to explore the rest of the rooms. She puts her left foot onto the staircase and pulls it away. She is scared to go down there. She doesn't know what she will find. Excuse me. I need light. She mutters out loud and quickly runs back to the window and carefully begins to climb out. She places her hands out in front of her and notices a pair of shiny black leather boots. She reverses back inside the window and her hand reaches in to grab hold of her. She screams and runs towards the staircase and doesn't look behind her to see if he is following her. She can hear him grunt and she decides to go down the stairs and find a corner to hide in. She has no idea where she is going and she can barely see anything. It is very dark down here, and none of the sunlight from outside is able to reach this level at all. She stretches her hands out in front of her and uses them to guide her, and she puts one foot in front of the other, walking very slowly and carefully. If she can't see, then neither can he, and she doesn't need to rush. She reminds herself, and she can feel her breathing slow down. She bumps into something hard with her foot and has to stop herself from crying out. She carries on walking and she can feel her heart pounding so hard in her chest. She worries that the man will hear it. She can feel a table of sorts, or perhaps a cupboard, and feels underneath it. It is hollow. And she climbs inside. She wants to cough and sneeze from the dusty and cold air, but pinches her nose shut with her fingertips, and the air is very thick and heavy suddenly, and she can't breathe in enough of it. She puts her knees up and puts her face against them, counting to 1,000 in her head, until she can no longer hear him looking for her. Who is this man? This is the second time that she has seen him. But this time, he seemed violent. When she sees Malcolm later, she will tell him about this incident and how he scared her. She starts to yawn and lays her head against the side of the wooden piece of furniture she is hiding in and closes her eyes for what only feels like a couple of minutes. She suddenly hears voices and opens her eyes wide. It takes her a moment to remember where she is, and she wonders who else is coming after her. She closes her eyes tight, hoping they will go away so that she can sneak back out. She hears more glass breaking and a loud and angry voice. It makes the hair on her arms stand up, and she crawls out from under the table and crawls along the floor trying to find her way back. She is lost and the voices disappear. Did I just imagine those voices? Am I going crazy? She wonders. She starts to cough as she breathes in the dusty air and then opens her eyes even wider and tries to orientate herself to see something, anything, but it is pitch black and she can't see a single thing. She carries on crawling along the floor and she touches something cold and metal. It feels like a metal pole of some kind. She runs her fingers along it and she can feel 14 bumps on the one side of it. They feel hard, but they are not metal, and she carries it with her thinking that she will use it as a weapon if she needs to. The sun starts to set and she is still down there. She hasn't noticed the time. She keeps wandering around trying to find her way back, and she is quite confused as to how she got this lost. I think when you're scared, you run. If there's halls or walls and you're going to touch and you don't know where you end up. She hears the sound of wood creaking not far from where she is crawling, and she holds the metal pole she has in her hands as tight as she possibly can. What was that? She listens carefully and pushes herself up against the wall. Her hands are starting to sweat, and she takes a deep breath, ready to defend herself. Bonnie? She hears a soft voice, a voice she recognizes. Bonnie, are you in here? Henry? Henry, is that Henry? She lets him get a little closer until she can hear it is him. She sees a light and decides to call out to him. Henry, I am over here. She whispers loudly and lowers the metal pole. The light turns towards her, and He starts to walk in her direction. He finally spots her and gives her a toothy smile. First, you fall asleep at the Asher building, much to the amusement of my men, particularly Harris. Your husband, however, wasn't very impressed, as we could both have guessed, and the building is off limits to the public, by the way. Public health standards and all that, boosh bosh bosh. He gives her a cheeky wink, and she knows he is teasing her. And now I have Mr. Harrington thinking I have you locked away somewhere. He is a scary man. I'm not sure if you have ever noticed that. She stands there all shy. Her face and her hair are covered in dirt and spider webs. I admit it wasn't my finest moment, but I was curious about what was down here. Her voice is apologetic, and she gives him an ashamed smile. What were you hoping to find down here? He asks and shines the lantern around the room. There really isn't much here. There wouldn't be. They would have taken anything of value out a long time ago, I would suspect. She shakes her head and puts her arms up in defeat. I don't know. I was just looking to see if my home was also mud flood affected. Then I saw the window and realized there are levels underneath the mansion. I just wanted to do a bit of exploring. It is my home, after all. And she rolls her eyes and walks closer to Henry, not wanting to be too far away from the light he provided. We'll get into the next part. Yes, we're going to read some more of this tomorrow. Well, it gets better, y'all. It gets much better. Okay, let me read this to you. Got to pull my notes. Excuse me. Okay. All right. Okay. It's quite a bit. I'm not going to read every bit of it. So this is a note here. Ringing Cedars of Russia, Book 1. For the Getaways. PDF free book. Hey, baby, what's up? JB, what's happening? Oh, what's going on? Evan Smiley, aka American Nietzsche. What's up, beloveds? Rondo Ganja, what's up? $6. It's good to have y'all in here, beloveds. Let's go ahead and let me read this to you, okay? So you can see there. The story of Coronado. Now, if you want to go ahead and see if this book exists or get the PDF, just go to History and Stories of Nebraska by Addison Irwin Sheldon. Addison Irwin Sheldon. Produced by Connie Snyder. This is part 1. That's a lot. Now, I'm not going to sit here. This is a whole book, just like we got to get back to reading the Algonquins fighting Europe. And the queen, as you know, the picture, they have a mother with a baby. That means the land. For those who don't know, the fake Jesus, they use everything. It lets you know that Europe was founded by our ancestors. But they'll keep hiding that from you. The story of Coronado. Francisco Vasquez Coronado and his soldiers were the first white men. So all you don't use Spanish. To visit the Nebraska-Kansas plains. Coronado was a Spanish general who came to Mexico to seek his fortune in the New World. And you got to remember, this so-called white really didn't apply to crayon colors. But at that time, this made-up time, this period, you got to remember who was conquered in Spain and by who. Okay? Cryptos and Sephardic Jews by way of the Ashkenaz. Anyway, just listen. Coronado was a Spanish general who came to Mexico to seek his fortune in the New World. While there, wonderful stories were brought by Fray Marcos, a monk, who had traveled 1,000 miles north into the country now called Arizona. In that land, it was said, were the 7 cities of Cibola, with houses built of stone many stories high, and great abundance of gold and silver turquoises, cloth, sheep, cows, and tame partridges. All the Spaniards in Mexico were eager to take possession of such a wonderful land and to seize its riches. Now, Coronado wasn't a lucky man who was made general of the army, which was sent out to conquer these famous 7 cities, 300 Spaniards on horseback, and 1,000 Indians, with a long train of horses and cattle carrying food and ammunition, started in February 1540 on this fine errand. After a long and hard journey across the desert, the army arrived at the towns of the Zuni and Hopi Indians in Arizona. There was no Navajos and all these other fake motherfuckers. Anyway, they found there what one finds today, a desert with houses made of sun-baked mud, the homes of poor and peaceful Indians who make pottery and weave a little cloth and raise corn and beans and fowls. This is all a lie. The riches and that's a lie. They have to do that to stories. Y'all have to pay attention though. The riches and splendor of the wonderful 7 cities of Cibola were a dream of the desert. There was no desert. Everything is buried. The giant trees lay on top of mezzanines. The land is split from explosions because of these doing tests. And that's why somewhere in the early mid 1900s, they let the Navajo, well, early 1900s, they let the Navajo in here on it's somebody else's land. Anyway, they found there what one finds today, a desert with houses made of sun-baked mud, the homes of poor and peaceful Indians who make pottery and weave a little cloth and raise corn and beans and fowls. The riches and splendor of the wonderful 7 cities of Cibola were a dream of the desert, like many other things in life. The farther off, the more wonderful. The nearer, the more common. The Spaniards were very much disappointed. They had come so far to conquer a people who were hardly worth conquering. It would never do to go back to Mexico with nothing to show for their long journey. So Coronado marched eastward across New Mexico into the valley of the Rio Grande. Stretched along this valley for many miles were villages of the Pueblo Indians. That's not what they were called, but the Pueblos. They also were poor and peaceful, irrigating little patches of the valley in order to raise corn and beans, making cloth and pottery, and living in sun-baked mud houses. These Pueblo Indians treated the Spaniards kindly and furnished them food. The army camped there for the winter. Quarrels arose between the soldiers and the Indians. The soldiers stormed the villages, killed many of the Indians, and burned some whom they took prisoners. The Spaniards then tried to conciliate the Indians so that they would go on raising food for them. But up and down the fair valley of the Rio Grande, there were fear and hatred of the white men. At this time, Coronado heard for the first time the story of the land of Quivira. Now, y'all know when the first term white and all that first existed. It didn't exist in the 1500s, right? I'm just letting y'all, I just want y'all to know something. I'm reading something's got a lot of real history and a lot of BS, because that's what they do. George Orwell said they do what? They rewrite what? They repaint what? They rename built. I mean, come on, right? At this time, Coronado heard for the first time the story of the land of Quivira. Far to the northeast, an Indian slave whom the Spaniards called the Turk, because they said he looked like a Turk, told the story. His home was far out on the plains, but he had been captured by the Pueblo Indians and held as a slave. It is supposed that he was a Pawnee Indian. I looked through hundreds and hundreds of books for Mongolian slave Indians. Never once did I find one anywhere. But I can tell you that they worked with the Spaniards, the Dutch, the British, the English, the new ones. Now, for the Pawnees wore their hair in a peculiar way so that they resembled Turks. The story of Quivira told by the Indian slave was of a wonderful land far across the plains. There was a river 6 miles wide, and it were fishes as big as horses, talking about the Mississippi. And upon it floated many great canoes with 20 rowers on the side. Some of these canoes carried sails, and the Lord sat under awnings upon them, while the prows bore golden eagles. The king of Quivira, Tatarax. The king of Quivira, Tatarax, Afriel. The great republic of Tartary. Slept under a great tree with golden bells on the branches. These bells swung to and fro in the winds which always blew, and their music lulled the king to sleep. The common people of Quivira had dishes of plated ware and the jugs and bowls were of gold. The king of Quivera wore a cross of gold and an image of a woman, the goddess of heaven. Stories like these filled the hearts of the Spaniards with longing to reach the land of Quivera and to help the people there to take care of its riches. On the 23rd of April, 1541, Coronado and his army marched away from the Rio Grande Valley, guided by the Turk and by another Indian from the same region whom they called Isopet. For 35 days they traveled out upon the high plains. These were so nearly level they could look as far as the eye would pierce and see. No hill. And they found great herds of buffalo, or humpback cows, as they called them, on these plains, and Indians who traveled around amongst these cows, killing them for their flesh and skins, eating the flesh raw and making the skins into tents and clothing. The Indians had dogs to pull their tents, while those who came in the 300 to conquer the land, and we made a pact with them because it was a test. They were testing the gates, these Ashkenaz. We subjugated them, and they became on the plains. Not all that you see is what you think. There were still great cities here, and they were just not allowed in them. From place to place, and had never seen horses until the Spaniards came. The Indians had dogs to pull their tents from place to place, and had never seen horses until the Spaniards came. That's not us. The Spanish army saw for the first time the American buffalo. None of these Indians who hunted the cows had ever heard of the rich land of Quivera, with its gold and silver, its great canoes, and its king. Here the two guides began to tell different stories and confess that the houses in Quivera were not quite so large as they had said, and the people not so rich. Coronado and his army had eaten all the corn they had brought with them for food. The land of Quivera was still said to be far to the north. A council, remember what we said about a council, an agenda and all that, was held, and it was determined to send the army back to the Rio Grande, while Coronado with 30 horsemen and 2 guides pushed on to find Quivera. So the army went back, and Coronado with his 30 men traveled on, eating nothing but raw buffalo meat. After crossing a great river, supposed to be the Arkansas, they came to the country of Quivera, 42 days after parting from the army, or 77 days after leaving the Rio Grande. Coronado says in his letter to the king of Spain, "Where I reached Quivera, it was in the 40th degree of latitude." The 40th degree forms the state line between Nebraska and Kansas, mind you. This would make Quivera in the Republican Valley. In the Republican Valley. In the Republican Valley. Coronado found no gold. So you think, who were the original Republicans? Republic of Tartary, blue flag with a white star that they gave to another country that didn't even have a flag. Coronado found no gold, no silver, no bells tingling from the trees, no fish as big as horses, and no boats with golden prows. He found Indians living in grass huts growing corn and beans and melons, eating raw buffalo meat and cutting it with stone knives. There were 25 of these grass hut villages, and the only metal seen in them was a piece of copper worn by a chief around his neck. Coronado went on for 75 miles through the villages of Quivera and came to the country called Harahe. The chief of Harahe met them with 200 men, all naked, with bows and arrows and some sort of things on their heads, which probably means the way they put up their hair, and suggests that they were Pawnees. Here the Turk confessed he had lied to the Spaniards about the riches of Quivera in order to lead the army off on the trackless plains where it would perish. We strangled him that night so that he never waked up, is the way one of the Spaniards tell the story of what happened to the Turk. Coronado spent a month in Quivera and Harahe. He wrote that the country was the best he had seen since leaving Spain, for the land was very fat and black, and well watered, with rivulets and springs and rivers. He found nuts and plums and very good sweet grapes and mulberries to eat, and plenty of grass and wild flax and sumac. The Spaniards held a council and resolved to go back to Mexico, for they feared trying so in the winter in the country so far from the rest of the army. They feared of that. So Coronado raised a great cross, and at the foot of it, he made some letters with a chisel, which said that Francisco Vasquez de Coronado, general of the army, had arrived there. The Spaniards then marched away in the month of August 1541, almost 400 years ago, and left the land of Quevedo with its fat black soil, its beautiful rivulets and springs and rivers, its great prairies of grass and its nuts, plums, good sweet grapes, and mulberries, its queer cows with humpback backs, and its Indians living in grass huts and eating raw buffalo meat. And no one has yet found the great cross the Spaniards raised with the name of Coronado upon it, nor has anyone yet found the tree covered with golden bells under which Tatarax, the great king of Quevedo, sleeps lulled by the music of the bells. Because that's all myth. Not the king Tatarax and not Quevedo based on tartary. Because if you go and you look up this stuff, you'll find pictures of the great cities destroyed based upon the World's Fair. And you heard the name of the Spaniard, right? Think about it. The Vatican, the fake Vatican, wasn't even established. And when it was, who did they use as soldiers? The Mongols and Mongols. I'm going to show you a picture of somebody. I want you to tell me, what does he look like? I'm not getting into phenotypes and all that, but I just want you to have a little more knowledge than what's out here and what's going on and all the, you know what I mean, all the dumb stuff, which is just beyond I want to show you a picture of Rabbi Haim Druckman, a leader of the religious Zionism who died at 90 some years ago. So this is Rabbi Haim Druckman, okay? I want you to see this picture, okay? Rabbi Haim Druckman, look at those eyes. By way of the new age of the new Turks and the new Mongols or mongrels, one and the same as far as relations of cousins. And they would use their own family to subjugate and to put them and still them in places. That's what the fake Jews, the so-called Ashkenaz, Zionism has given the world. And many people are unaware they're related to them. These pale skins y'all are. You know, y'all detest them in some form. But if you knew the truth, you'd be all downright out to get their throats. That's how you tell the story. That's how you inform. That's how you break things down. That's not based upon emotions and feelings. That doesn't accomplish nothing. And when somebody's going to teach or speak about something, they need to know what they're talking about. Your status, your job, your MO, all right, doesn't matter. That's how we do it. Tians, donations, y'all. Maybe this Friday we can order all the books, you know. Hello. You act like y'all living paycheck to paycheck. A couple of dollars going to kill you. Like they're getting prepared to attempt to use the immigrants from yes, it's another narrative, but not all. Hey, Tiana, everything's good, said Nelly. Everything's good. Are they going to mention Estebaneco? No, that's not the only. I told you this is a big old book. All right, don't rush. I've got tons of this information, this American tartary. You know, I've got books we haven't even read. And we need to have the mind prepared for now. But I just wanted to do that in case our brother wanted to come over here, and he's always welcome to say something. All right, because people want to speak, and most people, they believe, you know, especially these guys that become cops, they think that makes them smart or something. No, it doesn't. Every day I see videos of y'all some of the dumbest people walking around. I love you, and yeah, y'all are. So put on a costume, just like a lot of veterans, they put on a uniform. And you think you're gonna get respected because you run around policing people and you're doing a bad job, going in the wrong houses, being politicized, can't morally think for yourself, making it y'all against them. And then when y'all get out, then y'all realize the cops are kind of bad and y'all ain't do nothing when you was in there because it was about collecting a paycheck and following procedures that have nothing to do with law. The specificality of foolishness is beyond the derivative of damnitude and dumbitude. But it is what it is. We don't have to venerate hate or anything. We do things that can bring in a better picture, that can help shape another narrative. And sometimes those people can take the information and run and find something else that can be more beneficial. So I'm not speaking on hate against my brother. nothing but mad respect and love for him. But his identity, his whole existence and being is full of shit. And that's the bottom line. We walk this world and we get involved in things and things happen, but it doesn't mean that it's not privy to BS. And if an individual can't admit that, then what are they good for? Just a pie hole to put food in and spit food out? That's how the elite look at everybody anyway. Well, the majority of people. I look at the so-called y'all people who y'all call elite. I look at them like termites chewing at the foundation, going up in their little mud tubes. You know, when I was working with Sears Termite and Pest Control for the 3 years I worked with them in Florida, you know, I used to go and do those inspections under the ground, you know, go up under the crawl spaces in the basements, looking through the cracks with these little cameras and, you know, and then open my little thing and sell the service and then get to digging and drilling and, you know, foundation and reconcreting and this, that, and the other and explaining what I'm doing. And, you know, I drove my truck home at night. I didn't take it back to the job, except for the re-up in the morning when I went in there to find out what had to be done and who I was going to visit. And then some of the people I would call and schedule appointments with, you know, to win that Hawaii trip. You dig what I'm saying? Yeah. I work with Sears Termite and Pest Control. We beat Orcon out with the chemicals and deadly stuff. Our stuff was more ergonomic and natural. Well, somebody's saying, what hasn't he done? Don't worry about it. So I hope y'all enjoyed that. It went over an hour, but it's all right. It was a good read. I wanted to bring a lot of that in the format. I wanted to show things. I wanted to let people know that things are brand new and they always make something brand new. And the hypocrisy of it all. You know, it is what it is. Most people open their mouth and say something. And half the time they don't even know why they open their mouth for saying anything. You dig what I'm saying? Hey, Tariq, what's going on, Peters? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening, beloved? Yeah, grand evening for sure. So yeah, don't sleep on that, guys. Come on, we're almost there. Well, like I said, I ordered $20, and that's like 46 more to get, and that's enough money there. Not enough to get all 46 books, but there's, you know, so a little more, and I'm not gonna say the number. So one person, I don't want a person to make that payment. I don't want that to happen. 5 here and there is a wonderful thing, and it assists, and it get us there, okay? And then I can just go, hey, look, that's what I just did. Look at this. You know what I mean? And, you know, I'll be like a stripper that got a new pole that ain't nobody touched yet. Wee, and probably fall out the window. But anyway, you know. Let me get off here. Yes. This stuff's got a whoop to it, man. That cell food ain't no joke. With that lemon, I gotta run to the gas station anyway. I gotta get me a grape. I ain't completely fasting yet now. Don't get it twisted. I gotta get me I don't want to smoke. I don't want to use this. I gotta get me the grape or honey black and mild. So roll me a nice fat blunt. Get my 2 puffs for the night. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I appreciate and love y'all. What you laughing at? Made in 1955. Let's check out 7 Cities of Gold movie. Yeah, but you know that's the movie. You know that. But yeah, check it out. Anyway, I appreciate y'all. Share this. I appreciate those of you sharing it. I've been seeing some of y'all guys, people. Share it on TikTok if you can. I don't know if you can on TikTok. I don't think you can share YouTube. I think I have mine where you can download them though. Okay, I do have it, I think, set up like that. And that way I believe you can. That's how some videos are shared. But I appreciate y'all. It's nothing mad love and respect. I want to get to the store and get back so I can come in here and finish my last little 45 minutes of the Django and watch this documentary on the Korean. It was kind of like the Tet Offensive in South Korea, but I want to see, because I never really paid attention to it. I want to see what some of the brothers were saying, because you got to remember, our brothers weren't getting no R&R. They were brought in, fought all the way until they left, and it was the astute beginning of so many foreigners coming here, putting on uniform, fighting, and being very disrespectful to our elders here on this land. Okay. And I may convey and talk about that, especially with the veteran brothers and just with our brothers and sisters, just to see what I can pull from it. All right. So again, I appreciate y'all. It's number love to my sisters and to my brothers. You already know. To the AM, to the break of dawn.